I have been receiving a lot of requests to speak about my book, Reasoning Our Choices, and my friends and colleagues, and including my publisher, has been requesting me to speak about the book. And so I felt it would be good if I can explain you to help you understand what the book is all about. So the title is Reasoning Our Choices, the Value Principles of Reason. It is published by becomesshakespeare.com and funded by the Word It Art Fund. It contains 9 chapters, and it is based on the genre of philosophy. Now, while philosophy might sound a little highbrow, the subject which has been covered in this book is of immense importance. Now, why is choices so important? People may often feel that choices are not something that happen all the time. It's only when we choose that maybe this framework would be useful to refer to. The fact is that our choices completely govern our entire lives. So let me explain to you how. So because we are talking of a framework, we need to understand that there has to be certain scientific basis and reasoning attached to it. So what are the rules of a scientific framework? First of all, it should be applicable in all situations, which is the law of universality, and it should be logical, it should be scientific. So if we look at everything around us in this entire universe, what we find is that all the places are filled with objects. So you have inanimate objects like wood, rock, you have animated objects like plants, you would have then intelligent beings like dogs, cats, tigers, and then you have the human beings. Particularly, of course, we are here more concerned, but I have based the entire framework which considers all kind of objects. Now that we understand that even the human is an object, what happens, how do objects interact with other objects? It is only in the case of humans and in intelligent objects, like even for cats and dogs, that they generate in their brain what we call as feelings. These feelings are then expressed through sounds. In the case of human beings, we have what we call as the social constructs which we use to express our feelings. Now, language is a social construct, so is God, so is the concept of love. So all these concepts, which are basically imaginations derived from our feelings, are social constructs. So social constructs are not universal, whereas objects are universal. Now, what do these objects have? If you notice, all these objects would have certain elements of properties which are nothing but the various forms of energy that they contain. So what does energy do? It builds in a certain level of efficiency. So now that we have understood that, okay, the world is filled with objects, and within human beings who are also an object, they generate a certain amount of feelings. These feelings are expressed through social constructs. Let us understand what happens in the case of choices. All choices that you make, in fact everything that you do, is based on the choices that you make, and these choices are presupposed through a trigger. So what is a trigger? When I feel hungry, that's a trigger. Now once I feel hungry, I would like to satiate my hunger, or may even not want to eat something. I would like to use my willpower to hold on to my hunger. So a no choice is also, if you notice, a choice. So that's number one. So what does this bring us to? Which means that every trigger that you have would result into an element of choice, and there could be multitude of choices. So you could have multitude of foods that you can choose from, you could have multitude of languages to express your feelings to someone else, or you could have a multitude of ways to love or hurt someone, right? So now that we have understood that choices are not only multitude, all the social constructs that we use are also used within the objects. So, say for example, if you have to say something to someone, you will have to use the human form of the vocal cords, the tongue to express it, which means that finally you need an object to express the social construct and denote your feelings to another object. What would happen then? That object could come back with a choice, which means if I say hello to a person I've known, they would come back and tell me hi or how are you. So these are basically choices. Now notice here that even when saying returning back a hello, we have a multitude of choices of what to say in response. So similar things happen even in our everyday use. Now, so now that we have understood that we have a multitude of choices, understand that every object that you use to express your choice contains within itself various factors of efficiency. So when I'm trying to express my resentment or discontentment with someone, I might scold them, I might rebuke them, I might try to explain them, I might even slap them. If you notice these various choices, they have various vectors of efficiency. A rebuke would hold a certain amount of meaning compared to a slap, which could be a physical form of hurt. So, would you make the choice of a slap versus a rebuke can be understood when we understand the value principles of reason. That when are you reasoning to respond with a rebuke versus a slap? So, when we are talking about expressing our feelings to other objects, we do this in various states of reality. So, let me express and explain you the various stages of reality. We respond to these triggers using the four realities that we exist through in our entire lifetimes. So you have the operant stage, you have the observant stage, you have the subconscious stage, and you have the conscious. So let me explain to you the four stages. The operant stage is when you are responding to a trigger or making a choice using feelings. Typically, most human beings use this form of reality or exist in this reality. In an operant stage, what you do is you use a choice based on the feelings that the trigger generates towards you. Now, this is the stage in which most people exist and occur, and this is the stage when we are absolutely responding by mixing feelings. What happens to it is that all the factors of anger or emotions, our turmoils, our uh, various disturbances, mental faculties are agitated, and hence these are stages when you could be responding not very consciously, and it could lead to a conflict. The second stage is the subconscious stage. So, when you are in a drunken stupor, or when you are asleep, or even when you are looking at, say, for example, a magic, you are hypnotized. So, you do not have control over the physical consciousness. So, what you are doing, so while you are still making a choice, you're not making a choice with absolute consciousness, which means your mental faculties are dulled down. So the feelings which still get generated are not generated as you in a conscious and in a state of absolute understanding. The third stage is the observant stage. The observant stage is when you basically study, when you learn, or when you meditate. So this is the stage when you are looking at the triggers, but you are just observing it and not responding to it. So, as I said, when you are learning, what happens is you are putting in that knowledge deep into your mind. So, take the case of watching a movie. So, when you're watching a movie and you go back home, you get highly impressed by the actors because During the entire period of the movie, what you were doing, where you were in an observant state, so you are deeply observing, but you are not able to respond because the character was not talking to you. The fourth stage is the stage of conscious reality. So this is the stage when you are reacting but without feelings, which means you're not allowing feelings to dominate the decisions that you're taking or the choices you're making. This is the stage for leadership. This is the stage for statesmanship. This is the highest stage of being, when you are able to remove all kind of feelings. And when you remove all kind of feelings, what you do is you remove all kind of bias. So now that you have understood the four stages of reality, we will come to the final piece, which is the value principles. So how do the value principles finally act within your choices? So there are four major value principles. So you have the value principles of survival, the value principles of ethics, the value principles of reputation, and the value principles of physiology. These are the four majority value principles. And the highest value principle is the value of survival. So every object is looking to survive further and further, and their entire efforts go behind that. As human beings, we also have the value principle of ethics, and by the way, even animals have the value principles of ethics. A tiger does not go about killing a deer just for fun. They only look at the deer as food and they kill it only when there's hunger. Reputation, we use a lot of reputation in our value principles whenever we are reasoning, because we feel that if we do a certain kind of action, it will bring us bad or good repute. Uh, but in reality, what happens is these four major value principles, or the majority value principles, are often triggered or expressed using what I call as the four minority value principles. So what are the minority value principles? They are the values of culture, the values of dominance, the values of happiness, and the values of intimacy. Now, if you notice, most people often use culture as a very high reason to make a choice. Uh, for your understanding, religion is also a culture. So people often use religion to put out their theological stance or make choices. And why is culture so important? Because we come from various cultures, and these cultures are the base for our language, our belief systems, right? So it becomes a very important value principle in how we choose. But this is a minority value principle which we use to build for the larger value principles. So if you look at ethics, all religion also speak very highly of maintaining high ethical standards. Similarly, people may sometimes use the same culture to build their own reputation. Uh, most cultures think that they are the greatest, and they constantly exhibit such greatness in the form of their architecture, in the form of the great things that their culture has delivered to the entire human race. So I'm sure you will enjoy the book a lot, and it does contain very, very interesting areas to introspect. And this is a book for students, for employees, for housewives, for parents, and for, mainly for leaders. It's a book which should be read thoroughly, and I would want to do a next session based on the kind of queries and responses I received to this. In the process, what I do is I am also the co-founder of pexiscore.com. Pexiscore.com stands for People Excellence Indicator Score. So we help measure these factors. So we do value surveys, we also do leadership assessments. So you can reach out to us to help you better understand what are the value principles which are driving your employees to be able to build an organization which thrives for generations to come. Do look out for our other videos, particularly my video on nature versus uh, organizations, where I spoke about how organizations should either mutate or procreate to go ahead. This is a time for lockdown, so sadly this book may not be currently available in the paperback version, but you can surely look up and read it through Google Books, through Kindle, and through Nook and various other e-platforms. Do read it, share your feedbacks, and let me know and with comments below. Uh, how did you feel, and do you feel that this is worthwhile, or if you have any contra questions, I would be very happy to address them. Thank you so much. Stay home, stay safe, and let's hope this pandemic gets over soon.